All right, so we're going deep on Blue Timber Global today,
Yeah.
and I'm really curious about this one.
Yeah, me too.
You've sent over some fascinating stuff. There are company plans, industry articles, and it really seems like they could be impactful for a
Mhm.
lot of different people.
Yeah.
We're talking institutional investors, UK councils, even just everyday folks like our listeners.
Yeah.
And the core of it all seems to be these paulownia trees
Right.
and how they could shake things up for timber supply, carbon capture, and even those carbon credits everyone's been talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting how Blue Timber Global is going after two massive markets at the same time.
Right.
That huge demand for timber
Yeah.
and that booming carbon credit market.
Yeah. That's a really clever strategy.
It is.
So let's start with these paulownia trees.
Okay.
They're often called like miracle trees,
Right.
but are they really all that?
Well, Miracle might be pushing it a little,
Yeah.
but they do have some pretty remarkable qualities.
Yeah, okay.
Imagine a tree that grows to maturity in just 7 years,
Wow.
compared to something like oak, which
Right.
can take decades.
Okay.
That's Paulownia.
Wow. That's fast.
It is. And it's not just the speed.
Okay.
The wood itself is surprisingly strong
Hmm.
for how light it is.
Okay.
Like, it's often called the aluminum of timber
Oh, wow.
because it's so lightweight, but also strong.
So super fast growth and strong, lightweight wood.
Exactly.
I can see why some might call that a miracle.
Yeah.
But what about that carbon capture side of things?
Right.
How do those trees fit into that?
So Paulownia trees are really good at absorbing CO2.
Hmm.
Like 1 acre of Paulownia can absorb the same amount of CO2 as like 25 cars emit in a whole year.
Wow.
That's a lot of carbon being pulled out of the atmosphere.
25 cars, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So Blue Timber wants to plant 1 billion of these trees.
Right.
That's massive carbon capture potential.
Yeah.
Their plan isn't just to sell the timber though, right? They also want to generate carbon credits from these plantations.
That's right. That's where the real potential is.
Okay.
They want to register these plantations
Yeah.
with those verified carbon credit registries like Vera or Gold Standard. And that way they can generate and sell carbon credits based on all the CO2 those trees are absorbing.
Oh, okay.
So it's a way for them to monetize their environmental impact
Yeah.
and tap into a market that's projected to be worth trillions.
Trillions.
Yeah, in the coming years.
That's a lot of money.
It
That
is.
$1 trillion figure
It's-
keeps coming up.
Yeah,
Like Blue Timber's big goal, the BHAG they call it,
right.
is to be $1 trillion company by 2050.
Yeah,
That's a pretty big goal,
it is.
especially for a company that's focused on trees.
Right.
Is that even possible?
It's definitely ambitious.
Yeah.
But if you consider the size of that global timber market
Okay.
and the rapid growth of the carbon credit market
Yeah.
and the increasing demand for all those sustainable solutions out there,
Right.
well, their goal starts to seem less like a fantasy and
Yeah.
more like a calculated bet.
Yeah. On the future,
Yeah.
it does seem like they're positioning themselves right at the intersection of several of those major global trends.
Yeah.
Sustainability, the shift towards renewables, and that growing awareness of climate change.
That's right.
But let's bring this back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
Why should all these different stakeholders care about Blue Timber Global? What's in it for them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Let's start with those institutional investors.
Okay.
You know, they're always looking for opportunities with big growth potential.
Right.
And Blue Timber offers that in spades.
Okay.
Those dual revenue streams
Yeah.
from both timber and carbon credits
Yeah.
makes it a really attractive investment.
Mhm.
Plus, it aligns perfectly with that big push towards ESG investing.
Right.
You know, investing in those companies that prioritize environmental, social, and governance factors.
So for investors, it ticks a lot of those boxes.
Yeah.
High growth, dual revenue, and that ESG alignment that's becoming so important.
Exactly.
It really is like investing in the future,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
But what about those UK councils?
Right.
How do they fit into this picture?
So UK councils are under a lot of pressure
Yeah.
to meet those national afforestation targets
Okay.
and contribute to the UK's net zero goals.
Yeah.
Blue Timber offers them a solution.
Okay.
So by partnering with councils
Yeah.
to plant those paulownia trees
Right.
on land that isn't being used,
Right.
they can help the councils achieve those environmental targets,
Right.
generate revenue from the timber sales and the carbon credits,
Yeah.
and even boost those local economies by
Yeah.
creating jobs in those rural
It
areas.
seems like a win-win.
It does.
Councils can make progress on their environmental goals
Yeah.
and maybe even generate some much-needed revenue
Uh-huh.
while Blue Timber gets that land they need to
Right.
scale up their operation.
Exactly.
But what about the average person? Like someone listening to this deep dive right now,
Yeah.
where do they fit into all of this?
I mean, everyone benefits from a healthier planet, right?
True.
But Blue Timber could offer a way
Yeah.
for people to directly participate in that carbon offsetting.
Hmm.
Imagine being able to offset your own carbon footprint
Yeah.
by investing in a paulownia tree
Okay.
or even a whole grove of them.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
So you're saying I could actually invest
Potentially, yeah.
in a piece of a Blue Timber plantation
Yeah.
and offset my own footprint.
Exactly.
That's a pretty neat way to take personal responsibility for
Right.
my impact.
And it really taps into that growing desire
Yeah.
among consumers
Yeah.
to align their spending with their values.
Hmm.
You know, people are increasingly looking for ways to support those companies and initiatives that are actually doing good in the world.
I've heard some comparisons between Blue Timber
Yeah.
and John D. Rockefeller. It seems like a strange comparison.
It does.
What's the connection?
Well, it's not about the oil industry, obviously. It's
Right.
more about their business approach.
Okay.
It seems like Blue Timber is taking a page out of Rockefeller's playbook
Okay.
by trying to control that whole value chain,
Okay.
from planting those trees to processing the timber
Okay.
to even maybe manufacturing finished products.
So instead of just selling raw timber,
Right.
they might actually end up creating furniture,
Yeah.
flooring,
Uh-huh.
or even building materials made from this paulownia wood.
Exactly.
Wow.
They're not just thinking about being a timber supplier.
Yeah.
They want to be a major player
Hmm.
in that whole sustainable materials market.
Okay.
And by controlling that entire process,
Yeah.
they can really ensure quality,
Right.
reduce costs, and
Okay.
even potentially offer a lower prices to those consumers.
You mentioned earlier that Blue Timber plans to register their plantations
Yeah.
with those verified carbon credit registries.
Mhm.
Right.
Can you break down how that carbon credit thing actually works? It's still a bit mysterious to me.
It's actually fairly straightforward.
Okay.
Essentially, a carbon credit represents 1 ton of CO2
Okay.
that's either been removed from the atmosphere
Okay.
or prevented from being emitted.
Mm-hmm.
So companies and even individuals can buy these credits
Okay.
to offset their own emissions.
So let's say I fly in a plane
Yeah,
and that generates some CO2 emissions.
right.
I can then buy carbon credits
Exactly.
from a company like Blue Timber
Yeah.
that's removing that CO2 from the atmosphere through their paulownia plantations.
Right.
So it's like a way to balance out my emissions.
That's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's important to note that these registries,
Yeah.
they have really strict standards
Okay.
and verification processes
Right.
to make sure those credits being generated are actually legitimate
Makes sense.
and represent real carbon removal. Yeah, you don't want people just making up carbon credits.
no.
But this all sounds expensive.
Yeah.
Like planting 1 billion trees,
Yeah.
setting up all those processing facilities, potentially getting into manufacturing.
Right.
Where's all that money coming from?
So they've got a multi-phase capital raising strategy.
Okay.
It involves attracting those institutional investors,
Yeah.
securing government grants, and they might even launch a crowdfunding campaign
Oh, wow.
to allow everyday people to invest.
Okay.
And because their model aligns so well
Yeah.
with all of that emphasis on sustainability,
Right.
they'll probably attract a lot of interest from impact investors and green funds, those investors specifically looking to support
Yeah.
companies that are making a positive environmental impact.
So they're tapping into a growing pool of capital
Exactly.
that's looking for exactly this kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
A company that combines profit with purpose.
Right.
And if they can actually pull this off, the financial returns could be massive.
Yeah.
Not just for the company
Uh-huh.
and their investors,
Right.
but for the communities where they operate.
Yeah.
And for the whole planet, really.
It's a big vision.
But there have to be some challenges, right?
Of course.
Like planting 1 billion trees
Yeah.
and disrupting all these industries
Mm-hmm.
can't be easy.
No. Any big undertaking has obstacles.
Yeah.
One concern I've heard about paulownia trees
Okay.
is their potential to become invasive.
That's something I've heard too.
Yeah.
If they grow that quickly
Right.
and adapt so well,
Mhm.
couldn't they take over?
Potentially.
and crowd out those native species?
It is a valid concern.
Yeah.
But Blue Timber knows about this risk,
Okay.
and they plan to address it
Okay.
through things like careful site selection,
Okay.
controlled planting practices,
Uh-huh.
and ongoing monitoring to make sure those plantations aren't having negative ecological impacts.
So it's all about finding that balance,
Right.
harnessing that incredible potential
Yeah,
while managing those risks responsibly.
exactly.
But even if they deal with the invasiveness issue, they're still going to face competition, right?
Of course.
From those established players.
Yeah.
In the timber and carbon credit markets.
Uh-huh.
How are they going to compete with those companies that have been around for decades
Yeah.
with tons of resources?
That's where their focus on innovation comes in.
Okay.
And that vertical integration.
Right, right.
They think by controlling that whole process, from planting to processing to manufacturing, they can offer better quality products at lower prices.
Okay.
Plus, that commitment to sustainable practices and carbon negative production,
Right.
that gives them a unique edge that could really appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Environmentally conscious consumers, businesses.
It's like they're not just selling wood.
Right.
They're selling a solution
Exactly.
to climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. And that message resonates with a lot of people these days.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
They're not just relying on that consumer demand, though.
Right.
They're also talking to policymakers, industry leaders. They mentioned wanting to kind of follow John D. Rockefeller's approach, not just in building a successful company,
Right.
but in shaping a whole industry.
Yeah. What does that actually look like, though?
Well, they're pushing for policies
Okay.
that support sustainable forestry,
Yeah.
carbon sequestration.
Uh-huh.
They're working to establish those industry standards
Okay.
for carbon accounting,
Right.
verification.
Yeah.
And they're even looking at creating a whole new carbon credit marketplace that would directly connect buyers and sellers,
Okay.
cut out that middleman.
Interesting.
So they're not just playing the game.
Right.
They want to change the rules.
It's a bold move,
It is,
but could have a huge payoff.
if they can make it work.
Yeah. And they've got a really strong team.
Okay.
Experienced executives, scientists, sustainability experts. They seem to have the vision
Yeah.
and the drive to pull it off.
It's pretty inspiring, honestly,
It is.
to see a company with that strong sense of purpose,
Yeah.
not just chasing profit,
Right.
but trying to create a better future
Uh-huh.
for everyone.
And that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah.
It's about more than just trees and wood.
Right.
It's about using nature to solve some of those really big problems.
The ones facing humanity.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder
Yeah.
that even with all the craziness in the world,
Right.
there are still people and organizations
Yeah.
trying to make a real difference.
It's encouraging.
So for anyone listening,
Yeah.
Blue Timber Global is definitely a company to watch.
I think so.
Whether you're a potential investor,
Yeah.
a UK council looking for new solutions,
Uh-huh.
or just someone who cares about the planet,
Right.
their story is worth paying attention to.
Ab-
Well, that was a fascinating deep dive.
It was.
Thanks for bringing this company to our attention.
Of course. Glad you found it interesting.
I think our listeners will too.
I hope so.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep exploring and let us know
Yeah.
if you have any questions.
We'd love to hear from you.